I would only say Bali was Bali and New Delhi is New Delhi.
Backed by what some say a killer team, Prime Minister Narendra Modi managed to do what most thought was an uphill task, and that too a day in advance. On the evening of September 9, PM Modi announced that G20 countries have reached a consensus. It remained elusive in the last 17 ministerial meetings. Some feared that it would become the first G20 summit without a joint communique. But it didn't. And it was not easy. All references to Russia and Russian aggression in the Ukraine war, which were there in the previous Bali declaration, were dropped. It placated Russia, but how did the US and its allies agree to it? Experts believe that PM Modi's diplomacy worked. The G20 nations agreed that countries cannot forcefully grab territories of others. It also highlighted the sufferings of Ukrainian people. So what does India's achievement of bringing all nations on the same page say about its diplomatic prowess?
The stature of India has gone up significantly. But we have to also remember that joint communique, the Delhi Declaration, has come with a helping hand from the G7 countries led by the US. This is because the G7 obviously has climbed down from its tough position that it wants to see a stronger condemnation of Russia for its invasion of Ukraine. This also indicates that the realignment of geopolitics has meant how much India has become significant for the Western countries. What it means for India going ahead, I personally don't think this would mean much when it comes to multilateral negotiations. It's not like India will resolve all problems. For example, in the upcoming WTO meeting in February next year, which is going to happen in Abu Dhabi, this time the WTO ministerial, a lot of issues will be discussed, including WTO reforms, e-commerce, where we'll find ourselves opposed to the interests of US and other developed nations. So there, the pressure will be on us to come on board.
One of the biggest achievements during the summit was the ambitious economic corridor. It is being built as an answer to China's Belt and Road Initiative, or BRI, which critics claim has left a dead trail. BRI will connect Israel, Saudi Arabia, UAE, and Jordan to reach Europe via ports and rails. The United States too is a partner but is not being linked. However, there were no details about the financing or time frame for the project. On the economic front, the G20 countries agreed on a host of reforms. The need for strengthening global financial institutions through refining multilateral development banks and to boost the World Bank's financing. Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman said that the consensus on debt relief framework for Zambia, Ghana, and Ethiopia was achieved. This debt restructuring was essential for the financially lagging African countries. Apart from the debt restructuring, Sitharaman said that there was a global consensus emerging on regulating crypto assets as well.
It is important to note that the G20 countries have endorsed the capital adequacy framework, which will give the MDBs an additional headroom of lending up to $200 billion. One of the big things that we've all been talking about is crypto assets. The members unanimously were on board with the IMF and FSB paper, the synthesis note on regulating crypto assets. On debt as well, we've made some progress, but it is not clear if private lenders are on board with the common framework. There has been a whole report about digital public infrastructure and recommendations by the World Bank on what the countries need to do to get into DPI to improve financial inclusion. Those recommendations are voluntary. Certainly, there are a lot of things that are going to come up still. We shouldn't forget there is one more finance track meeting that will be held in Marrakesh in October, where some of the issues which as the declaration mentions as we welcome and we take note of, etc., will be discussed. And this includes the expert panel's group on strengthening the MDBs. The volume 1 of the report has come. The volume 2 will come when the next meeting happens.
On the issue of climate change, India made incremental progress but stopped short of decisive decisions on the existing issues of fossil fuel usage. Ahead of the COP28 UN Climate Summit in UAE later this year, all eyes were on the G20 leaders to come up with strong resolutions on strong climate goals. The leaders agreed to triple global renewable energy capacity by 2030 and acknowledged the necessity of phasing down the use of rampant coal power. However, the group did not provide any plans to amend the existing policies and targets to achieve the renewable goals. They underlined the need of $4 trillion per year but could not lay out a clear pathway of how it will be achieved.
India has achieved a major success by including tripling of renewable energy and doubling of rate of energy efficiency among the G20 nations globally by 2030. Apart from that, a major roadblock could be in terms of the language around abatement of coal. India has been pushing for quite some time across several global platforms, including the COP, that the abatement of fossil fuel or emission control should not just include coal. It should also have other hydrocarbons, which means oil and gas. But the Delhi Declaration remains restricted to coal. There was a push from oil-producing nations such as Saudi Arabia especially. Hence, oil has been kept out. But we have to see now that how it paves way for countries to come forward, stop their coal production, reduce their thermal power. Because post-Russia-Ukraine war, we have seen a lot of countries go back and open up their coal mines, open up their thermal power. So it sets up a very interesting tone for energy transition across the globe, across the G20 nations.
Another major win for India's presidency was that it was able to secure consensus on inclusion of the 55-member African Union as a permanent member. The emphasis of India on a strong global south will be lent a stronger support in the grouping where the G7 countries have played a dominant role till now. The move comes amid the expansion of BRICS, which included Saudi Arabia and Iran among other nations, which was seen as an attempt by China to make it an alternate to the G20. It was a tightrope walk and India has certainly done well. And to take stock of the progress, PM Modi has proposed a virtual session of leaders by November end, before the baton of G20 presidency passes to Brazil. In doing so, India has in a way acknowledged that not all promises see the light of the day. But for now, it is indeed India's moment. Coming on the heels of the moon landing, the G20 summit has made India a prominent voice of the global south. But will it be able to do the hard bargains? Only time will tell.
If you like this video, share it and subscribe to Business Standard. For more news, views and insights, log on to www.business-standard.com. Do also follow us on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Telegram and LinkedIn.
He's about to land his dream job. Business Standard.